All right, welcome back. Let's just dive right into this explainer and really break down the intense tactical pivot our heroes had to execute in Scene 19 of the Apocalypse Beckons campaign. I mean, if you've been tracking the journey of the Hand of the Chosen, you know they've been pushed to their absolute limits, right? But this segment, it's particularly fascinating. It completely shifts away from brute force combat and really highlights the sheer gritty survival strategy required when a party is just running on fumes. So we open in the harrowing aftermath of the Mistwood Vale battle. Yes, the physical threat of the invisible stalker was eliminated, but the psychic fallout, it set a terrifying new stake for the party. Imagine this, a chilling message just echoing directly in their minds. The Watcher does not forgive failure. Wow, the apocalypse embodied by the demon Gormak isn't just some distant threat anymore, it's actively watching them. And as you'll see, this psychological strike immediately dictated their next moves.
Okay, so here's our tactical briefing for this segment. First, we're going to look at the Watcher's ultimatum, followed by the strategic debate. Then we'll cover charting the overland route, the tactics of the Fey ambush, and finally, evading the firestorm.
Starting off with part 1, the Watcher's ultimatum. Because, winning a battle definitely doesn't always mean you walk away clean.
The absolutely crucial point here is understanding the party's severely depleted state. Just put yourself in their shoes. Imagine fighting for your life against an invisible monster, only to have a giant floating eye curse you with a psychic shockwave. That shockwave translated mechanically into short-term madness. So for characters like Wellesley, Aiden Emmis, Aaron, Bip, and Debbie, normal rest, which, let's be honest, is vital for recovering hit points and spell slots, was rendered literally impossible. Instead, it was just replaced by these small, incredibly persistent nightmares.
And the grim morning light, they scavenged some pretty meager but absolutely vital supplies. It really highlights the extreme resource management they needed just to survive the morning. They managed to secure just 2 potions of healing and a bundle of incense, which is kind of ironic, right? Because that incense might have actually helped them pierce the magical fog during the battle the night before. But anyway, with lingering psychic fatigue keeping them totally exhausted, they packed away their Sephra heist loot and had to immediately figure out their next move.
Moving on to part 2, the strategic debate. With her health critically low, they really had to nail down a destination.
So unable to simply stay put, you've got to wonder, how exactly does a weakened party choose a destination when literally every direction points to danger? They couldn't just pitch a tent. The mists were still a massive threat, and the Watcher was looming overhead. They had to move. But moving blindly, that could mean a total party wipeout.
Just look at the options weighing on them here. It's like a giant puzzle. Welsis wanted to find shrines to bless his axe, Ataminas was dealing with his demon patron's sinister commands, and Aaron was hyper-focused on finding their lost allies. Holding the Veil was way too risky. Heading to the Fire Islands or Duskmere, those were major hot zones. So ultimately, pushing to Port Zarford to find Jebediah and Tucker offered them the absolute best chance to consolidate their forces and gather some much-needed intelligence.
All right, part 3, charting the overland route. Now, they actually had to start mapping out their survival.
Now, because the local council couldn't spare the magic for a quick, easy portal ride, the heroes were forced to map out a highly dangerous overland trek. You see, the local authorities were completely tied up dealing with a truce with the orcs and fortifying their own defenses against the fog monsters. So, the luxury of instant teleportation? Yeah, totally off the table. They were hitting the road on foot.
Faced with 2 paths, they actually made a really fascinating choice. The Misty Valley was a much shorter trip south, but it meant risking running into more invisible stalkers. Acknowledging that their survival the night before was mostly wild luck rather than, brilliant tactics, they opted for the longer western edge of the forests. Honestly, it takes real strategic maturity to just admit you aren't equipped for a rematch, right? Which brings us to part 4. Tactics of the Fey ambush, and how they handled a very unexpected encounter.
So, they're on the road, and tensions immediately spike when a massive tree trunk suddenly blocks their path. But Ataminas cleverly called out the clumsy trap, revealing 3 Fey creatures demanding a toll. I mean, the party was bracing for another horrific Far Realm aberration, right? But instead, it was a hilariously obvious trap. Ataminas literally let out a dry laugh and yelled at them to come out. Out popped Thimble and Crank, who, if you remember, they had met previously, along with a brand new Fey named Poppy.
Now, avoiding combat is a brilliant tactical choice when your resources are this low. When you're suffering from psychic madness, you do not roll for initiative unless you absolutely have to. First, Aaron recognized the trap. Then, he remembered their previous encounters and offered a non-lethal tribute.
A bag of shiny pebbles. It's so good. The Fae were so delighted they immediately started squabbling over the rocks, securing the party's safe passage. That is just pure, efficient conflict resolution right there.
Finally, Part 5, Evading the Firestorm. Because, as we're about to see, environmental threats can be just as deadly as monsters.
The environment out here escalated terrifyingly fast. In minute 1, unnatural magic signaled danger. The wind howled, but weirdly, the trees didn't move at all. By minute 2, panicked caravan drivers were just flying past them in blind terror. And by minute 3, an orange glow on the horizon became a roaring 20-foot wall of fire. There is simply no fighting a firestorm when you're already exhausted. They literally had to hit the dirt and hide in the undergrowth.
Ending on this intense cliffhanger, the key takeaway here for us is the absolute necessity of strategic resource management. Because we really have to wonder, how can a party that is barely surviving the road possibly face the inferno that comes next? They bypassed the cloying mists, sure, and then negotiated with the Fae, but now the burning sands of Duskmere are rising to meet them. In the Apocalypse Beckons campaign, sometimes the greatest victory isn't dealing the most damage, it's simply surviving the journey to fight another day. So, what do you think awaits them in the ashes?